You can really tell who watched the game and who hasn't watched the game. As you know, Man United drew 1-1 with Fiorentina, but it was actually a really good performance with one dud moment, which was pretty much early on in the game. But before we get into the game, I'm actually delighted with it, and you can see why Man United got a Benjamin Sesko. It kind of just makes a lot of sense. But smash the likes. Likes are super important. So the thumbs up button. Exit anything you can find. Maybe you're watching on your phones. There's not going to really be a chat, but you know where it is. And also subscribe if you're brand new. Especially if you're a Manchester United fan. I want to, build a good community here, not toxic. But let's dive straight into the game. For me, the way I'm looking at it is, how is Man United playing football? And how is Man United playing in certain areas of the field, of course, at Old Trafford? And more importantly, the press moments. It took about 15 minutes to kind of really get going, I'd say, like properly going. And you can see where there's a gaping hole, and you can see why Manchester United are looking for a midfielder. I feel like the defending, on that set piece was horrendous. Someone needs to be shouting there. Someone needs to take control. And this is why I'm favouring the likes of De Ligt, who's more of a leader, and he's definitely very, very vocal. And of course with Bayinde was silent. He should be organising that defense, or that pretty much to a T. That's your role, the captain as well. Everyone just looking at the ball, running towards it. But bar that, the game gets going, and we're actually the right in possession. The only thing I would say is, in build-up, you can't have Bayinde in goal. I've just to get the negativity out the way, Bayinde is a huge problem. Huge problem. I saw many moments where you can go short. There's you see De Ligt or Maguire, you see Kobe when he came on as well, and you see the likes of Casemiro. They drop deep, they're in position as you would, and he's just gone long. He's not trusted his teammates, so there's a big difference in terms of that. But United dominated possession. Fiorentina went from a 4-4-2 in the first half, pressing really high, and then gradually they were going backwards, further and further back, until the second half. Of course, you see them as soon as Dzeko comes off, it was more of like a 5-4-1. And they pretty much didn't have a sniff other than the second half, where they hit the bar and pretty much hit their own player. United just didn't convert. The way we play in football, especially in tight areas, pressing and making them go long, kind of gives me a lot of confidence that United can provide something that we didn't do last season. And that's where I'm looking at performance. The result, of course, United could have won that, I would say, about 2-1. I think that would have been a respectable score. Maybe 3-1, maybe 3-2. It depends how you want to look at the game for yourself. But in the first instance was Mason Mount was playing as more of a false nine, you could say. Two split strikers in a sense. Cunha getting involved. We really dominated the space there. They couldn't get close. And when they did, they did hit us in a couple moments. But Casemiro was really on job today, which is nice to see. As anyone knows, Casemiro gets more fit and needs about a good 4 or 5 games to really, really get going. And for me, there's a big contention for him to start against Arsenal. Now, the most worrying thing for me is Bruno in the 8. His discipline, not trusting his teammates. But in the same light, when you do have a Mason Mount up front, and he is going to help in the midfield, I know that changed second half. This is where you really are missing a Benjamin Sesko, a real focal point up front. So when you do go long, when you do have corners, which surprisingly we look really threatening from, Euro twice pretty much, could have got there. Maguire as well. I thought, one of our first crosses that went in-swung from an in-swinger from the likes of Mbeumo, I feel like he should have done a little bit better. At least get on target. Anyway, yeah, it was really hurting them on a set piece front, which was, again, surprising. But in possession, it was nice. Ahmad linking up well with Mbeumo. I thought Dorgu and Cunha are definitely building a good relationship. The players are getting a lot more minutes. Højlund got no minutes. So, but in the first half, I thought, yeah, look, the back three was recycling it well. But it took just that little bit of time to get a bit of confidence to start moving the ball and trusting the teammates. When they were getting pressed, how are you going to bypass that? Ahmad was really dangerous. Could have done a little bit better in certain situations. I don't feel the referee protected Ahmad when he got pushed in the back evidently so many times. Probably felt like he went down a little bit too easily. Same with Cunha in an instance as well, but I feel like he should stay on his feet a lot more. But other than that, the patterns of play, off the ball runs, which rivals are going to say, oh, you're going to get top 4. You're not even doing anything. No one was really static. That's the main part. You see Euro pressing up really high. You see him in the right wing back area at times. You see Maguire shift over. You see Dorgu shift over. Casemiro dropping into the back three at times. It was nice to see that there was some flexibility in the positioning. And yeah, I liked it. But it will always come down to that one thing. Sometimes moving the ball a little bit more quickly than and in certain moments. You know, passing backwards when you don't need to, which is not the worst thing in the world. You're playing it safe, but this is where you need a centre mid sometimes to make sure that the ball is always getting recycled and you're carrying it. A little bit what Kobe did in the second half when he was driving past players. Again, good cameo, and I hope he keeps continuing these cameos because they won't get noticed. But when you're Casemiro, I thought he was brilliant. Bruno, on the other hand, wasn't so brilliant in certain moments. You know, he plays some nice 1-2s, but he keeps going all around the pitch. I feel like Bruno, when he's disciplined, is going to be your best Bruno, because Bruno can't do what he done 3-4 years ago when he was a lot younger. You know, I feel like you don't invade the space, but he was linking up well with Mason Mount in certain areas. It was just really frustrating me in the second half, sometimes forcing it when you don't need to. And you can see why in the second half, again, Fiorentina started strong, but United again with the press, playing high up the pitch. Maguire kind of showed me that he can play a little bit higher as well, because he's got quite a lot of cover. But the lit comes on and shows me why we need that bit more of an intensity, because Maguire does take a little bit too long at times to move the ball, which is really annoying because the team gets back in shape. But again, we worked the wide areas to a T, right? Cutting some cutbacks as well. Cunha should have scored. Evidently, Bruno brilliant with a cutback, off the ball movement once again, 1-2s, not staying in certain positions. Everyone's got to keep moving. But then there was obviously some lackluster moments in terms of giving away the ball in dangerous areas where another team would have definitely punished us if they hit us in the break. But it was really promising. You can't look at that performance and say that was dead. How are you going to do this? How are you doing that? When you don't have a recognised striker up front, let alone a false type, like a false nine, of course you're not going to really get goals. So when I was saying I feel like United are going to win maybe 2-1, that's exactly why. Because I thought, look, Xerxes was going to be fit. He wasn't. I don't know when he's going to be back. Could be another week. Could be another 2 weeks. Don't want to rush him. But you could see in areas that we were picking up on the edge, where even if it was like an out swinger, an in swinger, the back post especially, you can see we was getting a lot more crosses in the box, leaving a lot more dangerous. That's exactly where you want Sesko battling for those sort of balls. You want them sort of crosses, and you can see where it was needed. So it was quite evident. But Mason Mount played quite well as well, you know. But this is what you're going to get from Mason Mount. You're going to get a lot of energy, but when it comes to the parts when you need him, you're not going to get that much. This is what you're going to get. This is Mason Mount, bread and butter. Dorgu, again, you can see why he is our left wing back defaulted. Ahmad as well, just the way he just drives and goes 1v1s against players. Can his decision making sometimes be a little bit better? Yes, but he needs that little bit of help, because when you do look up as a player and you're not seeing really anyone making a darting run into the box, you start, why am I going to cross into there? Same thing with Mason Mount in the first half, where he's kind of just done this like, I don't know, he's kind of done this scissor like Pavard type thing. I don't know what to really even call it. Was it a cross? Was it a shot? But no one's in the box to, you know, deliver a goal for us. So little bits and bobs. It's a headache for Amram. You know, do you go with the Ligt? Do you go with Maguire? If Anana's fit, do you throw him straight in the deep end? Sesko, you can kind of see, even if you do put a Mason Mount or the likes of Bruno Fernandes up front, you're not gonna have anyone that's really gonna battle the likes of Saliba and Gabriel, who would have an absolute field day. As great as Cunha is and Mbeumo is, who looked much more fit, a lot more threatening. You can see Mbeumo what he adds as in terms of intensity to the team and a directness as well. It adds a new dynamic, but you need more. You need to complete the puzzle. And I feel like United are going to get there. You know, I was really surprised at how high we was going to play, because Fiorentina like to play a certain brand. They're very tight. They're really strict in their positioning, and also they're hard to break down. If you watch Serie A, you'd understand. They've been playing this way for the last 4 years. You would say, since Amrabat was there. You know, since the West Ham final with them as well, where they lost. I was expecting that. But the fact that United forced them back for once and was still looking to attack, have some sort of intent, was nice to see. And having a little bit more of a gamble. But in the middle of the park, it will always come down to, we need a Baleba. We need someone that's going to drive. And Amram's got to figure that part out. You know, Agate, when he come on, shored things up, but that's his sort of game. He's more of a game, you know, when he can just recycle things and the game's going the way we need it to. Maybe we don't need him when they're force back so much, but in a game against Arsenal, you're going to have to really think, are you going to keep it more tight? You're going to be more expansive, because in those small areas, Casemiro, look what he offers when we need like a long ball. You know, look at his pass towards Dorgu today. That was absolutely phenomenal. Even the way he recycled it over to the right to Ahmad at times. And that we need more of that. Agate doesn't exactly offer you that. I don't need to tell you that. But again, Mainu, there's got to be a plan for him. There's got to be a real plan for him, because when he comes on, look, even just little bits and bobs of where he picks up in terms of positioning. So again, what the favoured partnership will be, I don't know. Bruno, is he better up front? Is he better in one of those 10 spots? When it comes to United, like Amram, he's got a real selection. So I'm intrigued. No one's going to know. So I'm intrigued to see what he's going to go with. Can you drop Bruno? Can you not? Do you need him in big games against Arsenal? You probably do need him. But you don't want to get punished by the likes of Arsenal, because if you leave your space, we will get hurt. But in the same breath, when we got the likes of Mbeumo and they want to have flight like Ben White flying up and the likes of Skelly, then we could be really dangerous in those sort of areas as well. But I like the performance. I'll say the performance out of 10, I would say I'll give it a 7. You know, I feel like United had enough to win the game. I feel like in moments we dominated in a lot of the game, to be fair. And yeah, we moved the ball rather like, I'd say just move the ball a little bit more quick and trust your teammates. That's it. But anyway, smash the likes. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Is there anyone that you're particularly impressed with? I know a lot of people might mention Yoro, except a couple of the passes, but he's just mint, isn't he? I liked Cunha's performance a lot as well. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Smash the likes. You know how important it is. And subscribe if you're brand new. Love.